Awesome.
I don't necessarily need to be here for this.
Can I?
I'm gonna keep the headphones on.
I'm awesome. No, you're not, dude. Don't lie. I'm awesome. I'm driving around in my mom's ride. I'm awesome. A quarter of my life gone by, and I met all my friends online. I'm awesome. I will run away from a brawl. I'm awesome. There's no voicemail, nobody calls. I'm awesome. I can't afford to buy, and I talk to myself on my Facebook wall. You know my.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. I'm your host, Alan V, and welcome to another exciting episode of It's All Geek to Me here on WSIN Radio 1590 AM or online at WSINradio.org or through the TuneIn app. And I am not alone today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, this is DJ Nohana back in the booth. I'm just glad to be part of the show.
Awesome. Yep, I have a co-host slash shadowing here today. All right, so last week was spring break, so we obviously didn't have our show. And the week before, we talked a bit about pets and kind of why we act like morons around them. And as well as we talked a bit about PETA and kind of the hypocrisy and some of the crazy stuff they do. And then I closed out the show a couple weeks ago talking about infomercial products and giving the hint at my eventual Tales from the Call Center episode. But we're not going to do that today. Today we're going to be a little bit different. We are going to go ahead and talk about the Mandela Effect in a moment here. But what about the no Easter we had yesterday?
Yeah, that was pretty sad. I got so excited. I was like, someone told me, "Oh, we're gonna have a foot of snow," and then all of us and then it hit 12 o'clock. Or no, I was in my class, and then I got an email, inclement weather closing for the upcoming weather, and I was like, yo, okay. And then I'm totally okay with that, so class were canceled after 12, but then after that, honestly, I was like, all right, so when's this foot of snow coming in? When's this foot of snow coming in? It hit 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, all right, this is a little bad. When's the snow coming in? It didn't come. It came for like an inch and a half or about, an hour, a couple hours. That was about it.
Yeah, it's all the build-up. Originally, it was 12 to 15 inches in New Haven, up and more in the upper part of the state, and we got maybe a 1/12 of an inch to an inch of snow, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Best job on the planet. Just go on air, look at a digital map, and say anything in Infinite Job Security. They have it good.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how they do have job security after that. It's just funny. I think it's just funny.
Now, it is a lot of doing the weather's not an exact science, as ironic as that sounds. It is looking at a weather pattern from the Doppler radar and then guessing the movement, the pathway, and how fast or slow it's going to move. And that's all based on computer projection. So it is a lot of, we think it's going to do this, and then it does the opposite. So, yeah, we had a great non-snowstorm, and hopefully it's done. Hopefully now we have spring again here in New England, because, dear God, I'm tired of snow and cold.
Yes, indeed. I agree.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk a bit about the Mandela Effect. But first, since I talked about it a little bit last week, do you have a favorite infomercial product or a favorite infomercial that's so stupid that it's great?
Ooh, me. I can't name one off the top of my head. I think, oh dear. I don't know. I know there's always a bunch of them that are just, they try really hard to be punny, to make puns into jokes for people to understand, and then they just end up falling really, really flat. Just because we're like, okay, that's cool, but is that supposed to make us remember your product better or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, from a marketing standpoint, a lot of that is so it sticks out, like the set it and forget it with the oh god, this is even before my time, but it was Ron Pompei, Ronco, when they marketed every dumb product under the sun, but they had their infrared heater thing, and it was set it and forget it.
Oh wow!
I mean, modern day, you had Billy Mays until he died with just, look how high energy and clearly coked up he was on air. It's not a surprise because I believe when they did the autopsy, they did find cocaine in his system, which sucks because working in a call center did infomercial products. From that standpoint, I hated that man. But from somebody who can sell ice to an Eskimo standpoint, Billy Mays was brilliant.
Exactly.
But I ended up last show kind of closing it out talking about I think my favorite dumb infomercial product ever was something called the Roll and Grow, and it was a plastic sheet with seeds in it that you rolled out in your garden instead of actually gardening.
Yes.
And it's supposed to grow flowers, and it didn't because you can't grow flowers in plastic, but it was the funniest thing because people went crazy for it.
Yeah, I understand that.
But so we'll get into this week's topic here. Now we talked a little bit about this before we went on air. So you weren't necessarily familiar with the term Mandela Effect, but you at least kind of understood some of the mostly on the internet, but some of the symptoms or examples of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But for my home listeners who are asking what the heck is the Mandela Effect, let's go into a little bit of a discussion of what it is. It's named after Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa. This term itself was coined in 2010 online by a blogger named Fiona Broom to describe a collective false memory she discovered at the Dragon Con convention, where many others like her believed that former South African President Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s. And then later in 2010, the Mandela Effect website was launched. So what it was people had this false memory that Nelson Mandela died when he was imprisoned in the 1980s. What this translates to is, and again, I'll go into this a bit. So what this translates into is just there's this notion that people aren't misremembering events, movies, TV shows, history, and rather the idea of the Mandela Effect is that, and this feeds off of the idea of a multiverse or parallel universes. And I'm a comic book geek, so this kind of clicks. It is easy for me to understand. But it's the idea that for every action or decision you make, there's a parallel universe where you made the opposite action or didn't take action. So for any one thing we do, there's 1,001 offshoot universes. And the Mandela Effect hypothesizes that for some reason these universes are merging or intersecting at different points, and people are not misremembering things, but moving from one universe to another.
Yeah, I get that because if you ever read comic books, there's especially with DC, there's Earth 1, Earth 2, Superman, Earth 3, all these different parallel universes. So, it's the same kind of Superman. It's just you change his personality or his decisions a little bit. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's closer to the Mandela Effect. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because if you want to do your own interpretation of a hero that doesn't fit with the current canon of the comic book universe, you just create another universe that they existed. But the Mandela Effect is just, to me, hilarious, but it's a fascinating concept because there's just, never mind the pseudoscience behind it, and I'm going to actually go into, time permitting, a bit on the kind of the psychology of false memories and why our memory is not reliable when it comes to things. For starters, this is why we use DNA evidence to exonerate or convict now in court, because eyewitness testimony has been deemed unreliable over the years because our memory, within minutes of an event happening, our memory and our perception and perspective of that event changes or becomes, over time, changes based on other interactions and other input. But the big one here, and I forgot where I was going with that, with the Mandela Effect, is this applies to a lot of different events. The big one here being Nelson Mandela. More recently, with the passing of the Reverend Billy Graham, the Mandela Effect has come up again because there are people on the internet and it's just in social media in general swearing that they saw his funeral on TV like 10 years ago.
Yeah, unless you see a person actually die, or I mean, all right. I mean, because you could see so many different things on TV, and to make you believe stuff, but unless you actually, I don't know, confirm that what is on social media or what is on news media actually happened by first-hand sources, I don't think it's true.
All right. Yeah, it's a lot of it is just collective memory. Things can be shapen through external influence or just collective ideation. So basically, if so many people are saying, well, this happened this way, you're inclined to start thinking or processing an event or an object to be fashioned the same way. There are a ton of great examples of the Mandela Effect. I have a few that I jotted down, and of course more that I can pull up online here. But we're going to start with one really quick one here. All right, this will be a fun one for you. Is it Looney Tunes, Toons, or Looney Tunes, Tunes?
Ooh, I believe it's just Looney Tunes double O.
Ah, that's a common one. It's actually Tunes.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's what it is Looney Tunes originally started off as another series called Merry Melodies. It's all music based. A lot of these early animations, and I did a few weeks ago, I did a show on the resurgence of quality adult animation, but a lot of your Looney Tunes and all that stuff was all originally for adults. So a lot of it, and I don't mean adult like perverted, just it was adults in the 1930s, so it was different. It was big band orchestra, kind of comedic events surrounding it, but a lot of the music was the focus. As the characters and the humor became more prominent, it branched off or evolved into Looney Tunes. But yeah, the correct iteration is the Tunes. But people swear it's Toons, which in your brain makes perfect sense because it's a cartoon.
Yep, and you want to get the matching tones.
And it doesn't help. In the 1990s, my generation, we had a cartoon called Tiny Toons, which was like a 90s, kind of cringy, but 90s take on Looney Tunes with like college-age representations of all the characters. So Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and all them. And it doesn't help that that one was spelled Toons because that's grammatically correct.
Yeah, confusing.
So it's confusing.
Hey, I will be right back. I just have to excuse myself real quick.
Yeah, no worries, dude. Go for it. All right, and another great one here for listeners. Oscar Mayer, the hot dog people. You know, I wish I was an Oscar Mayer wiener and for the giant Oscar Mayer van, because bus, whatever you want to call it, the Weenie Mobile, which if I had the opportunity to drive down a highway, I would, just because how awesome and hilarious would it be that you're driving slow because giant gas guzzling Weenie Mobile and you're being flipped off as people are driving by a giant wiener, hot dog? But Oscar Mayer, in your head, how do you think it's spelled? I'm going to guarantee it's not actually spelled that way. This one I didn't fall for, but there's another one I'm going to bring up in a minute that I, in my head, fell for. It's not Meyer, which is how a lot of people spell it. It's actually Oscar, which is correct, Oscar, and Mayer, Mayer. But people will swear up and down that it's Meyer. Now, I know what you're saying. I clearly couldn't misremember this. There has to be something going on. I mean, the most logical answer to all of this is I slid from a parallel universe where we had a different spelling. It's clearly not that I misremembered this. So, yeah, it's clearly parallel multiverse conspiracy going on here, and not you misremembering. Now, the one that it was funny because unintentionally, last night I hopped onto Discord, which is an online chat program, with a couple of my friends, and we were just talking. And as I joined the conversation, they actually were already talking about the Mandela Effect. So I just hopped in and I was like, hey, I'm going to be talking about that on my radio show tomorrow. So we were kind of running with it and having a good time. The one I fell for, and again, a lot of it's just the way it's written. I could have sworn Chick-fil-A was CHIC-FIL-A. And a lot of you at home are going, or online here, wherever you're listening from, are going, yeah, that's correct. No, it's not. It's actually Chick, like short for chicken, CHICK-FIL-A. I had to actually go look up their logo to confirm that because my brain's going, there's no way I have that wrong. I have the image of their sign in my head. But alas, I was wrong. Or maybe I slid from a parallel universe. Which is insane, but hilarious. All right. So, yeah. The Mandela Effect is an interesting concept. And there's two of them that, you know what? We'll go ahead and take our first new artist spotlight break here. But we're going to talk about two big ones, which is the Bernstein Bears and the Star Wars movies. When we come back from our new artist spotlight, today we are going to be listening to an album called Bless These Sounds Under the City by the artist On the Brink of Life. And the track name here is going to be An Iridescent Aura. I don't know what this sounds like, so I apologize ahead of time if it's not your cup of tea. But I want to give any new artist that commits to our station here to send us music their time in the light. So I'm going to go ahead and again, it sounds better than calling it the obligatory music break, which is what I did all of last semester. But you are listening to It's All Geek to Me with your host, Alan V. This is WSIN Radio 1590 AM or online at WSINradio.org, as well as through the TuneIn app on your mobile device. And again, we're going to go ahead and listen to the song An Iridescent Aura, and I'll be right back with you. Again, this is It's All Geek to Me.
Tick-tock, the symmetry of our thoughts, the chemicals and angles, the catastrophic signals. Conscience and the curve. song in a songbbird's mouth as a sweet melody I soared out. I bounced off the trees and into the clouds.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that actually wasn't bad. I never know what I'm getting into with some of these artists. Some of them I'm familiar with because I played them last semester. If you were with me last semester, you might remember the little mishap I had with a song by a band I actually like, whose CD disappeared because of this incident, Educated Fools. It was supposed to be FCC clean, but wasn't. So I never quite know what I'm getting into. This, again, was Iridescent Aura by the artist On the Brink of Life. While not something that would be in my personal playlist, that actually isn't bad. It's something I could listen to on a regular basis. So, hey, I did actually halfway decent today. We'll have another song by them here in a little while to close out the show, but we're talking about the Mandela Effect, i.e. how we're sliding in and out of parallel universes and that we're not falsely remembering things, because that doesn't sound remotely insane. But we're going to do two big ones. This one came to my attention on a internet. Now, this kind of predates YouTube, but it's on YouTube now. But it's a website called Cinemassacre, like cinema and massacre, and it's a gentleman by the name of James Rolfe, who is a amateur filmmaker. But he created a character known as the Angry Video Game Nerd, and what he normally does is he plays bad old school video games, and basically. The thing I got told all the time that you'll never make money on, which is screaming at bad video games, well, he made money on screaming at bad video games. But he did an episode of his show sort of on the Mandela Effect, but specifically on the Bernstein Bears. Now, let me ask everybody, is it S-T-E-I-N or S-T-A-I-N? And this is what brought me into the concept of, oh, wow, that I remember something completely wrong. Or is the Mandela Effect real? I, growing up, as did many others, were convinced that Bernstein Bears was B-E-R-N-S-T-E-I-N. Lo and behold, on this video, and even he was one of, and it might be a generational thing because he's about my age, he could have sworn it was S-T-E-I-N. And it blew my mind because I have the book cover from any given book in my head with the spelling of S-T. Even now, even though I know that's not the spelling, it's in my head. My memory has S-T-E-I-N. And people insist that, well, in one universe it was S-T-E-I-N, and in the whatever universe that we're in now is S-T-A-I-N. Now, if it changes to S-T-E-I-N at a later date, then okay, I know something's wrong. There might be something to this. But having a discussion last night with a couple of my friends, this came up. And I mentioned how people insist because the way they remembered something when they were young. To paraphrase my friend Quentin, as he so aptly put it, well, I also used to crap my pants when I was young. That doesn't make my memory correct. And that's what it is. It's a lot of the times it's an incorrect memory. A lot of times things that sound but don't look correct, our brain, our mind changes so it sounds or reads correctly in our head. This brings up my next one, which is involving Star Wars, because there's two of them. Let me ask a question, and I'm going to go to another statement and come back to it. C-3PO is all gold, correct? He's the gold, effeminate, possibly gay robot. Don't have a problem with that. It's just the character. Well, I should say stereotypically gay robot. That way I'm covering all bases, because just because you're gay doesn't mean you're that effeminate, and so on, and doesn't make you gay if you are effeminate, so let's just go with stereotypical. He's all gold, correct? Now you're probably going, well, I don't know. So let's go to another point really quick. Everybody can quote that famous line in Star Wars. Did Obi-Wan tell you about your father? He said you killed my father. Luke, I am your father. Wrong. Wrong. Everybody remembers the line as Luke, I am your father. And this one I can understand because George Lucas has gone and rewritten and redone and just changed the original movies about 1 million times. let me make that Han didn't shoot first and had Greedo shoot first by making Han's neck digitally twist in a direction a neck can't move. So if you've ever seen someone wearing a Han shot first sign, that's why. Because George Lucas just lost his mind at some point in the 90s and decided to digitally redo everything and then make the prequels. God, those were horrible movies. Let's do the second movie where it's C-SPAN in space. People want to see that, right? Oh, in the first movie, we'll get a lizard that's a pothead. And his underwater bong people and all CGI robots. Because that's a great movie. The third one, admittedly, wasn't that bad. But the bar was so low at that point, it didn't matter. But yeah, let's get back to the Luke, I am your father. It's actually, Luke says, Obi-Wan said, you killed my father. Darth Vader looks at Luke and goes, no, I am your father. And that's why Luke goes, it can't be. And then he says, search your feelings. You know it's true. I'm not even a giant Star Wars fan. My buddy John is the huge Star Wars nut. I'm more of a Whovian. But even I kind of know this one. But yeah, it's your brain changes that line because it sounds better to say, Luke, I am your father versus no, I am your father. It's not Mandela Effect, or maybe it is, who knows? It is essentially just that your brain took something that did not sound great grammatically and changed it to sound better in your head. And yes, Luke, I am your father from a thematic standpoint sounds infinitesimally better than no, I am your father. That's why we did that. And to go back to the other question, Mandela Effect or not, C-3PO is not entirely gold. He has a leg that is not gold. This one blew my mind because I didn't notice this until I seen stills and the prop itself. I believe it's his, from the way he was standing on set would be his right leg, is more of a silver color. And it's possibly a real simple explanation for why everybody sees him and remembers him as entirely gold. A lot of that movie was filmed in the desert, like San Bernardino and all that area. And the light reflecting off the desert and everything else is going to shine and look gold as the rest of them. And possibly the other thing our brains can do, if something doesn't look right, our brains will make it look right to us. Like if something's misshapen or miscolored, our brains will go, no, this doesn't look right, let's fix this. But yeah, no matter how much you want to say, no, he's gold, he's not entirely gold. These things are what people cite as examples of the Mandela Effect in action. Now, since you're back here with me,
hello,
welcome back. Have you come across that with the C-3PO being, even me and myself included, everybody convinced that he's entirely gold-colored, but he's not? Oh,
entirely. I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan myself. Yeah, so it's just that also, like, the first time they introduced C-3PO, you're right, desert, and it looks like everything else. Like, it can give the appearance as if he's gold, but much of the time when you see C-3PO, it's from the waist up. You're not going to notice that his leg is silver. You know what I mean? So I don't think it could be a Mandela Effect, but you're right. Like, a lot of times the brain would just fill in stuff, kind of like every person has a blind spot on both eyes. But the brain just basically fills in the rest and guesses the rest of the image. So that way it looks like a complete picture.
Yep. And here's the other one I was talking about while you were out. The line, Luke, I am your father.
Yep.
It's no, I am your father.
Yep.
But as I said, it's because it sounds better thematically for him to go, Luke, I am your father. Our brain just kind of removes no and adds Luke.
I feel, yep. I mean, I think, I don't know. I really think that, I don't know why George Lucas chose, No, I am your father instead of Luke, I am your father, because like all my like geek friends who have listened to or watched Star Wars a bunch of times know the actual line, but then in pop culture it's Luke, I am your father.
And here's another one that kind of blew my mind here. Let's see, do I have it on here? And if not, I know it. In Forrest Gump, Quote the line to me. The box of chocolate one. If you know it.
Sure. No, it's life is like a box of chocolates.
That's what everybody says because that sounds grammatically and thematically better. The actual line that's read in the movie is Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Life was.
And that's not a big one, but it's just because...
Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates.
It's because why would you talk about life in the
right.
past tense? So it makes sense that our brain would go, that doesn't sound right, that should be is.
No, because his mom died. Boom. That's why.
That makes sense.
Life was like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. Great movie, by the way.
Yes.
Highly recommend it. Forrest Gump. 1994.
Yep.
Right? Boom.
And, oh yeah, I'll skip around a little on some of these, because we talked about this one earlier, too. People, my generation, and possibly your generation, too, I think we're technically part of the same generation, but there's a little bit of an age gap, so I kind of...
There is. Born in 97.
Yeah, I'm in 82, even though I'm considered a millennial.
No, it's a different generation.
Yeah,
Every 10 years.
I'm the in-betweener.
Every 10 years.
But everybody insists that insist that there is a movie in the 90s about a genie called Shazam starring Sinbad. Everybody remembers the VHS cover, owning it, and seeing it at least once. This movie does not and has not ever existed.
You've done your research on that? You can confirm?
Yeah. Now, the funny thing is somebody running with this made a mock VHS cover. So it's just adds to it. And even Sinbad, the comedian, I never found him funny, so comedian loosely. Even he rolled with it and kind of took that artwork of the fake VHS cover and put it out like, yeah, I was in this movie, as like an April Fool's joke a year ago. But everybody insists that this movie's a thing. Now, there was a crappy 90s genie movie starring Shaquille O'Neal called Kazam.
And Shaq was an actor.
Yeah, there was a period in the 90s where Shaquille, after Jordan kind of retired and they needed a basketball player to be the ambassador,
Yep.
They let Shaquille O'Neal rap and act.
Oh, no. He was on the Fushik,
in the video game, Shaq Fu.
Yeah, but that's because that was based off of Shaq was an actual rapper. He was with 3 other guys called the Fushikums. I'm pretty positive. Hold on.
But you look that up, and I will. I'm curious here too. In Kazam, the actual genie movie with Shaquille O'Neal, there's a line that goes down in infamy of just how bad his rapping was. He was trying to rhyme it, and his rhyme was green egg and ham it. I have heard religious rap music that's less corny and dumb than that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But yeah, it's Sinbad never happened. Sinbad happened. Unless I just suddenly slid into a universe where he never existed and all of you are going, what's he talking about? Sinbad was a thing. The movie Shazam with starring Sinbad was not. But everybody insists it existed. And going to derail the train a little bit for a second here since we have plenty of time left. This reminds me of it's one of the few that I would say genuinely good internet creepypastas. And for my listeners that don't know what I'm talking about, it's creepypasta just means a internet story that's been shared over and over that's meant to unnerve or be scary in nature. It's taken from an internet term called copypasta, which is where you just copy and paste stories in different forums, kind of the troll or just to mess with people. It's become a huge thing on the internet. Most of them are awful. And I talked them a little bit during my Halloween special, but I didn't have time to go into them as much as I wanted to. But there's one, and this was actually turned into a episode of a Sci-Fi Channel show that I can't remember the name of right now. But it was called Candle Cove. And as the story was written, it was written in the style of like an internet chat room where everybody was talking about, do you remember this show they watched on TV back in like the 70s or 80s? It was a puppet show with one live action human girl and a bunch of like pirate puppets and a skeleton puppet called the Skin Taker. And it's done really well. I actually encourage any of you that like scary stories or just kind of like weird stuff like that to Google it. It's a great read. And again, most of them out there are horrible. This one's legit good. It goes on about, and then they start talking about an episode where it was the little girl crying and everything was on screen screaming. And then the end of the story was the person that started the thread talking about how they asked their mother about Candle Cove. And the mother told them how she was always awestruck that the child would sit there staring at static every day for a half hour. So the whole thing on it was this show wasn't real, but all these people saw this show, so it's paranormal.
Whoa.
It's legit. If you haven't read it, because, I mean, if you hear creepypasta, most people think of like the really bad video game ones and everything else. This is actually a legit good one. It was executed well.
Okay, I'll take your word on it.
But, because I like watching YouTubers that make fun of bad creepypastas, because most of the time they're written by 5-year-olds and they're written by grown adults. But
yeah.
Sonic.exe. Excuse me.
Good plug. But, hey, so it's they're called the Foo Schnickens, featuring Shaquille O'Neal. They produced a song in 1994 called "What's Up, Doc? Can We Rock?" Maybe we'll play it at the end of the broadcast.
Yeah, you know what? I probably could do that. Let me see if I can look that up.
And don't worry, it's censored. It's clean.
Yeah, given his profile in the NBA and everything back then.
They wouldn't want to, Yep, that one. Third down. Oh, this is going to be a treat. I love this.
Awesome. But yeah, so we had the Shazam movie that everybody insists was a thing. Here's another one, like the Looney Tunes. How is Fruit Loops spelled?
It's fruit, F-R-U-I-T. Fruit. Loops, L-O-O-P-S.
This one's a little tricky, and I understand why people misremember it because they don't actually use letter O's. It's fruit, F-R-O-O.
Oh, L-P-S.
An L-O-O-P-S, but what they do is they use the little, the cereal pieces as the O's.
Yes.
And that makes sense to me that people are like, well, okay, it's fruit, but they're just using the O, so their brain goes F-R-U-I-T. But that's another one where people swear that's Mandela Effect.
Wow. Yeah.
And here's the thing. I know the box, but after seeing the images of fruit, and this is how our memories work, because with all these, it's MandelaEffect.com is the website. It's actually, the person is out there that did it because they insist that everything's an alternate reality. But we could all be wrong and it could be right, but I tend to be a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to completely insane ideas and theories.
I mean, you have the right to do so. That's okay.
But I just think it's fascinating, and I'll get towards it when we close out here, just kind of the ego behind it all. Yeah. But there's a picture of Fruit Loops spelled correctly, F-R-U-I-T, and of course now your brain, when you think of Fruit Loops, if you've seen that image, will go to that. But no, it is fruit with the O's being the cereal pieces with a little splash of milk behind the O's. So it's brilliant marketing on Fruit Loops' part, but it's, again,
You're right. It's F-R-O-O-T. Fruit Loops.
And this one I don't get because I never had this problem. People insist there's a peanut butter called Jiffy.
What? It's Jif.
Yeah, it's Jif.
And if you say GIF, you're wrong. It's Jif.
But there's Jif peanut butter, and then there's Skippy peanut butter.
Right.
So logic dictates somebody in their head, and probably as a child, combine Jif and Skippy into Jiffy. But people insist that there was sold on the shelves in America a peanut butter called Jiffy. And they insist that they want Jiffy back because it tastes better than the other stuff. Well, no, you ate Jif or Skippy. So either your taste buds changed and that peanut butter is not as good as you remember, which is highly likely because our taste buds change.
You're right.
Or you like either Jif or Skippy and just try them both and pick which one you like better.
Jif. It's Diff. It's terrific.
It's GIF.
Yep.
What's the other one? I have a bunch here, but some of these are classic. This one I didn't realize, but again, I haven't seen the movie in forever. Have you ever seen Silence of the Lambs?
Yes.
Do you remember how everybody quotes the line, "Hello, Clarice"?
Yes.
That's not a line in the movie.
What?
He just says good morning to her. He never actually says hello, Clarice. Which is trippy.
Mind-boggling. Wow.
And yeah, but it sounds better for a crazy cannibalistic sociopath to not just say good morning like a rational person to someone else.
Yeah, and if you think we're wrong, fact check it. Fact check it, people. Give us a call.
Yeah, these are all ones I pulled off online, did my research here over the last couple of days. This one I never understood either because I never had this problem. There are people that insist in their universe Kit Kat had a dash between the word kit and cat.
No.
It never did.
No, it's wrong. Wow.
I mean, Kit Kats are amazing, especially if you have the opportunity to have the ones in Japan imported because they do all sorts of crazy flavors.
What?
Yeah, there are strawberry Kit Kats, taro root Kit Kats, which are hit or miss, red bean paste, which sounds like it'll be gross, but they're amazing.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't. It's a horrible name for a
It's
flavor,
a chocolate?
but they're all chocolate. It's just kind of like what the coating is. But in Japanese, Rabbit Trail again, it's my show, so hey. In Japan, part of schooling, whether it's grade school or college, university, during exam season, every student has a Kit Kat or 20 as a good luck charm.
Or 20.
And it's a big cultural thing there. Kind of like Christmas over there, they don't do a lot of like we do. They just make a small cake and have it with family. So it's different culture, but Kit Kats are a huge part of their culture. And they have awesome flavors. Watermelon one was good. Didn't like strawberry. It was a little too sweet. But I'm diabetic, so I don't do super sweet stuff. So the red bean paste one was probably my favorite. There was another one that was like a spicy Kit Kat, which was interesting.
Spicy.
Yeah, it was
spicy
like,
chocolate.
Yeah, it was spicy chocolate. It was interesting.
Okay.
Let's see what else we got here. Another one from movies, and a lot of these are most commonly movies. And there's psychology behind why your brain, when you hear something, your brain will reprocess it to sound better. But no, it's parallel universes because that makes more sense. But in Snow White, it's not mirror, mirror on the wall.
What is it?
Actually, magic mirror on the wall. Because mirror, mirror just flows better.
No, magic mirror still has the alliteration mirror, mirror. I mean, I guess you're trying to rhyme. But because, like, wall.
Yeah. I mean, either one works, but it's just...
Fairest of them all. Still rhymes, so, I mean...
I don't know why... No, I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me that Dorothy never says there's no place like home, but I know that's a line in Wizard of Oz. I'm like...
yes, that is true.
Another great one is Interview with the Vampire is not... everybody calls it Interview with a Vampire. The movie from the 90s I didn't really get back in the day care for, but it's a, interviewing a vampire movie type thing.
Yep.
But it's actually Interview with the Vampire. And again, Interview with a Vampire grammatically sounds more pleasing than Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, wow.
All right, what else do I have on here? I did the Sinbad, I did the Forrest Gump, and let's see. Oh, this one is probably going to mess with a lot of people here. This one I had to actually write out versus just a headline because it requires a little explanation. During the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood intro, he'd sing a jingle that many people remember beginning with the line, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood."
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
That's not what he actually says, though, and it's a subtle difference, so this one kind of makes sense. He actually says, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood."
Beautiful day in this neighborhood.
Referring to his own place, but given that he was everybody's non-bad touchy, good to be around uncle.
Yes.
I mean, no matter what kind of day you had as a kid or what your family's, whatever circumstance, Mr. Rogers was just that friendly guy. So it made sense that we would personify what his statement to "It's a beautiful day," and we're part of the neighborhood, so we're part of the neighborhood. So mentally, that makes sense to me. Or, it could be parallel intersecting universes where he read a different word in another. We slid from that universe to this one. Yeah, these a bunch of these. Here's another one I wrote down here. This one I kind of don't have an opinion on because I don't remember a lot of it other than the books. Curious George, tail or no tail?
No tail.
Yep, that's correct. Curious George never had a tail.
Nope.
Our brains add one because he's a monkey and monkeys have tails.
Not Curious George. I remember my Curious George. I am Curious George.
Curious George never had a tail. There's another good one here. How about, did you ever see a picture of the painting of the Mona Lisa?
Yes.
Stoic face or smiling? Stoic meaning just plain dead stare.
No, she is smiling.
Yes. People insist that when this was first painted and up to like 5-10 years ago, she had a stoic face and either somebody modified it or through wear and tear, a smile has appeared.
No teeth were shown, it was just a smirk.
Yeah, it's a smirk. It's actually intentionally done that way because depending on your mood or perception, you are going to read that painting differently because it's kind of art.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the point. There's many different perspectives that you can take. Yes.
All right, I did the Darth Vader. I did the Bernstein Bears. Yeah, here's two of them here. And this I never watched, so this one doesn't bother me either. But in the 90s or early 2000s, I forget when. Remember the HBO show everybody calls Sex in the City?
Oh, it's Sex and the City.
Yeah, it's actually Sex and the City. I've seen shirts with Sex in the City. And,
yes.
And I'm like, everybody's gotten that wrong. It's hilarious to me.
That's funny. That you're right.
And the other one, and this one, I've seen, I can understand this one. The Monopoly Man, Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Yep.
Monocle or no monocle?
What is monocle?
Monocle's the eyepiece. Monocle's like a single eyeglass lens.
Oh, snap. I want to say monocle, but I think that's wrong.
Yeah, he has no monocle. Never had a monocle. People have drawn him with one, but officially he's never had one.
Oh, no, because I think someone drew it on there with Sharpie, and then people were like, oh, that's so funny, and then they made it an actual picture. Wow.
But that's another big one that everybody insists on it being examples. Again, everything I've read off over the show here are arguments people make that the Mandela Effect is real.
Wow.
And what I'm going to transition to, because I could spend an hour and a half just going over different examples and the humor and kind of give reasons why I think why our brain does the thing it does. But it's the argument with the Mandela Effect is, and because the obvious argument I've been making all show is you're just remembering it wrong,
right?
Because that's the base logical argument. Proponents or supporters of the Mandela Effect argue that it's evidence that individuals are slipping in and out of alternate versions of similar reality, and that the memories are correct. It's just they're not correct for the reality or timeline they're living in.
Well, also people just like to be right all the time.
That's what I'm getting at. There's a psychological process, and if I still have that pulled up. If not, let me pull that up really quick. There was a psychologist / psychiatrist. False Wikipedia. I didn't type the right thing in. False memories. Okay, and I can't find the name of the psychologist that did it. Last name was Loftus, and this was done back in 1970s. But it was basically this clinical psychologist, psychiatrist, basically neurologist, the whole doctorate and whole 9 yards. So somebody that's advanced in their studies and in their field would meet with patients and just do a process of talking and negotiating through with patients as an experiment would plant false memories of like a sexual abuse as a child or some other act that the person denied happening, but as they implanted the suggestive nature of the events, and then they would come back to it, the person would suddenly recall memories of said event happening. And this was done ethically questionable. I actually outright say unethical.
Oh, okay.
But this was done with the course of a few hundred patients, different circumstances and situations. But it was to demonstrate that memory is not a reliable testimony for events, circumstances, and history. And this kind of was done along the same lines of why eyewitness testimony is not necessarily reliable in a court case. That's why you as a person, when you are typically when you're a victim of like a robbery or assault or whatever, you're brought in and you have to stand before a lineup of similarly looking people to the suspect. The idea is if you don't pick the correct suspect, then they can't rely on your testimony, you as an eyewitness. And which kind of sucks because if you accidentally picked the wrong person, well, now they just walk free unless there's other overwhelming evidence. That's where DNA comes in.
Yeah.
There's a lot, especially in the Midwest, over the last 20 years, where people were convicted for life sentences for crimes they physically didn't commit because eyewitness testimony. The joke of some black guy or some Family Guy South Park did it with the making fun of the not making fun of, but kind of pointing out like O.J. Simpson and John Benet Ramsey. If you don't know, that was a young girl that did a pageant show who disappeared one day, and everybody thinks the parents did it, but they can't prove it.
Oh, wow.
And the running gag, because in the show, Butters was dumped by the mother snapped and tried killing Butters. But the lie they all were saying was it was some Puerto Rican guy who took Butters. And so it was basically like give a vague, nondescript, description of the person, so that applies to 1,000,001 people. So the argument made by Loftus during her studies, and I know it was a woman, not that matters. I remember that much. I actually had this up last night and emailed it to myself, but forgot to sign into my email here at the station. It was to reflect that memories can be implanted. So even interrogation. You can implant a perception of guilt or associate guilt by association of a person, or just that there's a great scientific thing done. Where are we on time? All right, so we're closing out. So
we got to listen to Fushnikins.
Did you ever hear about the thing where you have like four people, the four blind people describing an elephant?
Yes.
And how like they all describe a completely different animal based on what their perception or what they touch.
Yep.
And that's kind of what psychology has demonstrated with memory and relying on perception, memory, and our interpretation of events. Four people can see the same event, all are going to have a different interpretation or a recollection of it based on how they interpreted the event. And this is what I think is going on with the Mandela Effect is our brain takes, especially with the music and TV shows and movies, where we hear a line that just sounds wrong, our brain corrects it.
That's right. Yep.
Our ego,
kind of like when you're reading a book, or no, let's say, you're reading a document, right? And it's provided by by a teacher, gives it to you, and it looks all correct to the teacher, and then you look at it and it's like, all right, well this grammar is totally incorrect. People just pass over it.
Yeah, but. To me, with Mandela Effect, there's psychology behind it, and they will. I wish I was able to bring a psychologist on today. That'd actually be kind of fun. But it's just misinterpreting and misremembering things.
Yep.
But Mandela Effect fascinates me because the ego, the arrogance to be like, I'm not wrong, everyone else is, and my explanation is I slid from one reality to another. That is some major ego.
Yeah, I mean, just say that you're wrong, bro.
Yeah, it's cool to be wrong. We're all wrong. I thought Bernstein was Bernstein. But you know what? I look at the cover and I can tell my brain as a child interpreted a cursive A as an E because they're very similar looking, especially when you're someone like me who has god-awful handwriting.
It's Leonard Bernstein?
It's actually S-T-A-I-N. I remember it as E-I-N, so do millions of people. But
E-A-I-N.
It's B-E-R-N-S-T-A-I-N. It's actually the Bernstein Bears.
What about Leonard, though? Leonard Bernstein? Is that Bernstein? Pretty sure it's Bernstein.
No, it's actually named after the author. It's S-T-A-I-N. Yeah, you're out of the room doing your thing when I was talking about that before, because that's what got me interested in Mandela Effect, was watching Angry Video Game Nerd a year ago when he did that episode, and it blew my mind. Well, we can run a little late because I don't see Quinn and Mike, so I don't think Foul Territory is coming on. But so we will play just as a special treat, the awful Shaquille O'Neal rap song for everybody.
I love this. Let's go.
But yeah, it's just so Mandela Effect. I'm not telling anybody what to think, just to think. To me, it sounds like just ego run amok. I'm the type of person where I can hold like, okay, anything's possible. Because if somebody in a blue police box showed up tomorrow out of nowhere and said, time travel with me, I would go. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan.
Yes. Agreed.
But it's hilarious. If I was a psych major, I would go deeper into detail here on the psychology behind implanted memories, cognitive dissonance, and how we misinterpret events. The audible stuff's really easy because you hear things faster than your brain. The same way you talk faster than you think. You things happen at a faster rate than your brain can register.
Yes.
Same thing with movies. As you're cataloging what you just saw, you're now 2 or 3 scenes later. Your brain sometimes combines those. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean your brain is broken. It's just how we operate. Be cool with it. Own it. It's not you're not some chosen one to travel through parallel universes. Because that's, come on, that's like schizophrenia territory there. Let's be a little reasonable here.
Yep.
But I want to thank you for joining me here today.
I'm glad I can come on the show.
And you said you're going to be starting your show soon. You said date and time and kind of what your show is going to be about?
Yep. So tomorrow, it's going to be my first on-air time for DJ Nohana Presents. Be on Fridays from 5 to 6. And I'll be playing music anywhere from hip-hop, EDM, some pop, and maybe I'll add some folk in there and try to combine that into my set. So hopefully I'll see you guys there.
Awesome. Yeah, check them out. Tune in starting tomorrow. You said 5 to 6?
5 to 6. DJ Nohana Presents.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead as a special treat because we were talking about the crappy movie and the fact that Shaquille O'Neal was given a rap career. This is going to be What's Up, Doc? Can We Rock? With his band Fushnikins. And you've been listening to It's All Geek to Me. I'm Alan V. This is WSIN Radio 1590 AM. I'll play this for you, and then we're going to do, after that, one more track by our artist spotlight today, which is, if I can read, On the Brink of Life. So first off, we have Shaquille O'Neal featuring Fushnikins. Enjoy. This is hilarious.
What's up, hard? Your hoop hoops, your ma dukes, a pot dukes, the 2 scoops, I'm raising in the sun. Brother try to rally up, then daily tally for some room. Bird decking, double decking, rubbernecking in my tunes. Check it out, yo. I smile like Groucho Marx. I make a joke, pokey poke, slide by like egg yolk. Play me like a punk, like the penguin and that joker. Snooping in my biz like Tom and Roxy Roca. The bust the freaky way. The brothers with the H and keys making cheese. What? And now we selling records overseas. Holy smoke, oops, your whole plan pooped up. Now you get kicks, enough licks, plus cooped up. Cause you can catch a quick drop for trying to take the stick spots and tick tock around the clock and shot while we lick shots. For goodness sakes, the stakes is high. I'm out. You out. ABC ya. Bye. Carry rock. What's up, Doc? Carry rock. What's up, Doc? Carry rock. What's up, Doc? Carry rock. What's up, Doc?
I thought I saw a pudding jack. What? I did the Humpty Dumpty Bashful Grumpy, picking a biscuit, disco, kick on my stuff. Pick it up, like Pinocchio. But did it all underground, Humpty Dumpty camera, hump nose. To play those see those suffer, suck attachment, mistletoe dance. No white is after the 7 doors with stars. After me, lucky charms. So leaping leprechauns, the gun, pushing my pedal to the metal, working the run for the cocoa brushes, and I love my fruity pebbles. So howdy, my partner, I start to give me up. So axe buck, I'm Mr. Rob Dog, Bonina. Oh, where is my mic one? Tell me that you seen her. I stretch like a condom, it's not like a wiener. A sausage, of course, it's my portrait, corrected. But before my intro, get a bit of dust, I might check it. So who is the nicest in your neighborhood? The Rick's a man with a Mary Cracker, Timmy, Captain Crunch, very good. So rock. This boom box, chip fool is coming again, give thanks and praise. Yes, the drum, my lyrics are smooth like the head, yes, on Teddy. My tongue starts to tick and moving like Speedy. Pick up your pen, your bag, your lyrics and bag and run the whole lot. Touche, pussy cat, put down that mic cause you can rap. Cause I'm dip, diving, so socializing. Clean out your ears, yes, and open up your eyes. And I kick like Bruce Lee and I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme. So dunna, Batman. I hip, pop, don't, stop. I'm harder than the pistol, coming up bigger than the drum rock. All types of lyrical styles, yes, the chip stuck and kick 'em. I stick 'em, ha, stick 'em.
Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc?
Ripping the program, slow man, hot damn. My grand slam, swinging things again and again. Golly, hot chewy, macho like Roscoe. Randy Sandwich, mammoth, swinging a ding-a-ling with damage. Crown Rich, now Antoinette, snore Montego. Spanish like care for the non-true lingo. Next, a new hex commentator, stand aside. Stringing MCs like a bikini or panty line. Nuts, you might bust, but you can't even come right. Despite the stroking and hoping of pulling up peace pipe. Huff and puff, so what the is happening on the lyrical American spiritual, but everybody's rapping. Flip a new hit, catch back to the notch. Grip never sit, concept with a tongue twist on my style. That's buck wild. No fake raps, I push pounds, I flip mad scripts and hits. I hit, so bring the Goya, oh boy, as I say, hasta mañana, trust and chewy, hunk and fooey, regular monster, tough stuff, can I rock?
What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc?
I'm the hooper, hyper, protective viper. When I'm out the hooping, yo, you better decipher. In other words, you better make a funky decision. Cause I'm gonna be a shack knife and cut you with precision. Forget Tony Danza, I'm the boss. When it comes to money, I'm like Dick the Boss. Now who's the first pick me? Word this morning. Not a Christian late, not Alonzo Morning. That's okay, not being braggadocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I gotta go, I ain't no joke. Now I slam it, jam it, and make sure it's broke.
What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we're closing out the show here, that was Shaquille O'Neal with Foo-Schnickens, Can We Rock? What's up, Doc? Or What's Up, Doc? Can We Rock? I think the answer to that is definitively no.
Yes. No, Shaq rock. Shaq was on the last verse. Shaq can definitely rock. Shaq can definitely rock.
So, yeah, that's your dude. And take that, which had help to not sound bad, eliminate all the help, and that's what you had in the movie Kazam. But so I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I know we're running a little late, but there's no show after this. And I know a couple weeks ago I went an extra half hour, but I think we've covered what we wanted to talk about here today. So I'm going to play it out tonight to end this show with, again, On the Brink of Life, and the track is named Silhouettes of Songbirds. Tune in tomorrow to check out DJ Nohana from 5 to 6 here on WSIN Radio 1590 AM or online at WSINradio.org, or if you're on your smartphone or mobile device, download the TuneIn app and just type in WSIN. This is it here from the Sin Bin. This has been Alan V, host of It's All Geek to Me, with my special guest, DJ Nohana. Everybody have a good night. Enjoy the music. I'll see you next week here. Same time, same channel. Take it easy, everybody.
Have a good night.